Gildan Media proudly presents Gildan Seminars, original lectures containing essential information that can be applied to every facet of life and business. Gildan Media presents a Gildan Seminar, The Secret to Achieving All Your Goals, an advanced course in personal achievement by Roger Dawson.
Session 1. Learning to go beyond goal setting and positive thinking. Once upon a time, in a beautiful old gold rush town in the Rocky Mountains of Canada called Opportunity, there lived a flock of long-necked geese. On a beautiful fall morning when the surrounding mountains were glowing with the bright red and yellows of the fall scenery, it was time for the geese to take off for their annual migration to their winter feeding grounds in Mexico. As was the custom, this was a big day for the townspeople of Opportunity, the day when they all came out to see the geese leave. As if programmed to do so, the geese took off with a great flapping of wings. They circled the lake twice and then headed south to the cheers of the townspeople. Several days later, the geese were approaching Contentment, Colorado, a town that Quaker pilgrims founded in 1857. They saw a beautiful lake on the outskirts of town and decided to spend the night there. It was the most beautiful lake they'd ever seen, and the next day they decided to stay for another night. There was plenty of food for them to eat, and they were very happy there. 2 days turned into a week, and nobody wanted to leave except one or two of the younger geese, who went to their leaders and said, "Winter is coming to Contentment, and we must leave this beautiful place soon and fly on to Mexico. The only way we'll get back to Opportunity in the spring is if we leave Contentment now." However, most of the geese were happy there and wanted to stay longer. Why take the risk and make the effort to fly on when things may be much worse further south? Everything we need is right here. Several weeks passed. The first winter storm blew in, and the lake started to freeze. Soon the geese had trouble finding enough food and began to grow weak. The kindly Quakers who lived in the town felt sorry for the geese and started to feed them. After a while, the geese gathered at the side of the lake every morning, waiting for the townspeople to give them food. The geese weren't lazy. Every day they flew around in circles, went to endless meetings with other geese, and spent many hours rearranging their homes at the edge of the lake. They were always busy, but they quit looking for food because they knew the townspeople would always take care of them. One day a stranger was traveling through town and stopped to watch the townspeople feeding the geese. "Why are you spending so much of your time and money feeding the geese?" he asked. "You're poor people, and winter is coming. You should be worrying about your own survival. Besides, geese are wild birds, and they should learn to feed themselves." The townspeople didn't want to appear stupid to the stranger, so they quickly made up a reason for feeding the geese. "Why, stranger, can't you see that we're fattening these geese up for our Christmas dinner? This year we will have the greatest feast that we have ever had." And that's what happened. The townspeople all had a wonderful Christmas dinner, and the geese never made it to Mexico. They all perished in Contentment. The moral of the story is that if you get stuck in Contentment, somebody's going to wring your neck and cook your goose. Doesn't that fable represent the lives of so many people? We start with such great ambition, determined that nothing will stand in the way of us accomplishing our goals. And in this great land of opportunity, if we study and work hard, we have an excellent chance of becoming successful. We will achieve our goals. This could be the worst thing that will ever happen to us, because when we achieve our goals, we often arrive at the land of contentment, and never realize that if we were to take off and fly again, we could achieve so much more. As George Bernard Shaw said, there are two tragedies in life. One is not getting your heart's desire. The other is to get it. I believe that it is a virtue to be content with what we have, but it's a vice to be content with what we are. Too many people congeal at some point in their lives. They reach a point where they don't want to change anymore. They have become content with what they have become, and their belief about their potential congeals like cooking fat getting cold in the bottom of a frying pan. A human mind is a terrible thing to waste. It's even more tragic when the mind is one that was successful in the past, but is now congealed in contentment. In this program, I will not only make you want to take off and fly again, but what is more important, I will show you how to do it. There are many fine audio programs in my library that stress how important it is to set goals and maintain a positive attitude. Playing them in my car over the last 30 years has kept me going through some tough times. I credit them for much of my success, as do hundreds of thousands of other listeners throughout the country and around the world. The key phrases I can quote word for word because I've listened to them dozens of times. Earl Nightingale said, "You become what you think about." Napoleon Hill declared, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." And Robert Schuller proclaimed, "When faced with a mountain, I will not quit. I will keep on striving until I climb over, find a pass through, tunnel underneath, or simply stay and turn the mountain into a gold mine with God's help." I still have the phonograph record that made Earl Nightingale famous. A friend gave me a copy of The Stranger's Secret in 1967, and in only 30 days it turned my life from failure to success. All of these positive thinking messages hinge on one idea, that if you can change the way you think, you can change your future. Carl Menninger, the famous psychiatrist from Topeka, Kansas, said that what happens to you doesn't matter. It's how you react to what happens to you that makes the difference. William James, who became known as the father of American psychology, said that the most important discovery of his generation was that a man could change his circumstances by changing the way he thinks. None of this is new. The Greek-speaking philosopher Epictetus said, "People are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them." In Hamlet, a play with enough delicious sound bites to make a modern politician green with envy, Hamlet said, "There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." I agree with all of this, but the purpose of this program is to take you beyond goal setting and positive thinking. After you've learned to set goals, write them down, and carry them around with you, after you've learned to act as though it's impossible to fail, if you're still not where you want to be, then what do you do? If you're already very successful but still have the feeling that you could do even more if only someone would show you the way, to whom do you turn? How do you go beyond all that? I firmly believe that we can all do so much more than we think we can do. I used to run a company for a man who was always telling me that. I would complain to him that he was asking me to push our employees too hard, and he would say, "Roger, everybody can do so much more than they think they can do. The only way you'll ever get the best out of people is to push them too hard." I'd like to challenge you with that statement. I think you can do far more than you think you can. Does that ring true when you think about it? Aren't you doing far more now than you thought you could do 5 years ago? I believe that 5 years from now, you can be doing more than you dream is possible today. The only way you'll ever get the best out of yourself is to push yourself too hard too soon. Always attempt a little more than you think you're capable of doing, and always move to the next challenge just a little ahead of when you think you're ready. Congratulations on achieving all your goals so far, but I want to see you achieve greater success than you presently think is possible. I promise you that I'll do more than just stand on the sideline to be the coach who cheers you on. This is not a motivational program. It's a skill-building program. I'm going to teach you the skills that are necessary for you to become all that you're capable of becoming. Everything that I have to teach you in this program I've based on one premise, that in order for things to change in your life, your behavior has to change. Changing the way you think is fine, but it only helps you get what you want out of life if it leads to a change in behavior. So in this program, I'm going to teach you how to change what you're doing in order to change where you're going. And since you can't soar beyond your potential without the help of others, I'm also going to give you the power to change the behavior of other people in your life. Let's look at what you'll learn from this program so that you can get a feel for what it can do for you. For the balance of Session 1, I'll teach you what controls your future and what you can do to change your direction. I'll teach you the difference between cognitive psychology, that tells you to change your thinking if you want to change your behavior, and behavior shaping, which tells you to first change your behavior, and then changing your behavior will automatically change the way you think. In Session 2, you'll learn the 4 drives that control your behavior and how to identify your dominant driving force. Once you understand this, you'll know why you do the things you do. In Session 3, I'll teach you some remarkable research on exactly how to modify your thinking so that you can always behave in an upbeat, optimistic way, in spite of any discouragement that tries to drag you down. In Sessions 4, 5, and 6, I'll take you into the heart of this program, the latest research on behavior shaping, or how to use it to change your own behavior and that of everybody with whom you deal. It's a method that will greatly shorten your learning curve and dramatically cut the time it takes you to influence other people. I'll teach you about a dramatic breakthrough in behavior shaping devised by Pat and Marty Roberts. I didn't believe their claims until I saw their method in action, and it will astonish you also when I tell you about it in Session 4. In many cases, the way we train people is not only incredibly inefficient, but also it's wrong. I believe that techniques in management and sales that we've taken for granted for years have taken us away from what we're trying to accomplish. You'll see how learning the fundamentals of behavior shaping will dramatically affect your ability to motivate yourself and other people. You'll learn how to identify existing reinforcers and rearrange those reinforcers to link them to the desired behavior change. In Session 7, I'll teach you how to use behavior shaping to eradicate your fears. In Sessions 8 and 9, I'll teach you the 8 ways to use behavior shaping to change other people's behavior and how to get people on your team. Then in Session 10, you'll meet Dan Hill, a mid-level executive whose career is in a rut. He's the sales manager for a division of a large corporation. While he's done well in the past, his career is stalled, and he doesn't know how to get it moving again. You'll learn how he uses techniques in this program to try to move up in his corporation. You'll be with him every step of the way until he's finally called into the world headquarters of his corporation in New York to hear what they have planned for him. That's a quick look at where we're going together. All the new things I have to share with you have me so excited that I can't wait to get started. So now, get ready to enjoy the advanced course in personal achievement. Psychologists line up into 3 camps when it comes to helping their patients achieve more. First, the people in the cognitive camp who concentrate on thinking, imaging, emotions, and feelings. Cognitive therapists believe that the way you think is the key to the way you behave. That to change your future, you must first change the way you think, and that will lead to a change in behavior. Second are the people in the behavioral camp who concentrate on what people do rather than why they do it. Behavioral therapists believe that our past has conditioned us to behave the way we do, and the way we behave causes us to think the way we do. In the third camp are the metaphysicians, most people know them as positive thinkers, who believe that thought alone controls our future. I'm not knocking positive thinking. There have been times in my life when a shot of it was just what I needed. However, O.J. Simpson's a positive thinker, and he's doing 33 years in a Nevada prison. Bernie Madoff is a positive thinker, and he's serving a 150-year sentence. If you motivate someone who's going in the wrong direction, you'll help him or her get there faster, but they'll still show up in the wrong place. Those are the choices you have. The cognitive camp telling you to change the way you think, the behavioral camp telling you to change what you're doing, and the motivators telling you that there is not a thing wrong with you and there's nothing you can't do. The philosophy of any one of these groups will help you achieve your goals, but if you want to achieve your full potential, you must decide which one is right for you. Imagine that you're racing off down the road to success. At first, it's like the start of the New York Marathon. Tens of thousands of people are on the same road racing for the same prize. Soon most of the others fall behind, and you're out in front with just a few hundred people. Suddenly, the road to success forks into three branches. The people ahead of you are all going off in three directions. Consider the options. Who do you want to follow? Off to the right are the positive thinkers and metaphysicians. They believe that all you have to do is think about your goal and make it happen. It's tempting to follow the positive thinkers as they skip off into the sunset. It looks like the easiest way, and they do seem happy. By the way, have you ever seen a metaphysician's map? It has "You are here" written all over it. These positive thinkers are talking excitedly about a study done with basketball players, which they claim proves that you don't have to practice shooting baskets to get better. You can lie down and just think about it and get the same effect. Wouldn't it be wonderful if that were true? Perhaps if we wanted to become President of the United States, all we'd have to do would be to lie down and think about it, and soon the Marine Band would show up at our door playing "Hail to the Chief." Sure beats kissing all those babies. To me, this kind of thinking is an extension of the unrealistic goals that we often have when we're young. Ask your 15-year-old son what he wants to become, and he might say, "I'm going to become a world-famous rock musician like Ozzy Osbourne." So you say, "But you don't know how to play a guitar." "Yeah, I know, but that's not going to stop me." "But you don't even know how to read music." "Neither does Ozzy Osbourne, Dad. You're so out of touch." "You don't have to know any of that stuff to be a rock musician." That's the equivalent of saying, "Flap my wings and fly to Mexico for the winter, no problem." The problem with young ambition is that it hasn't learned the law of cause and effect. You cannot just imagine yourself becoming a world-famous musician and expect it to happen just because you want it so much. When Earl Nightingale said you become what you think about, he didn't mean that's all you have to do. Trust me on that. I knew Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale was a friend of mine. He meant that thinking in that manner would create a new self-image, which would then cause you to do the things you had to do to get where you want to go. As we go into our 20s, we learn the law of cause and effect. If we really want to be president, we must devote a lifetime to learning how to play politics. Then we must shake thousands of hands and raise millions of dollars. Lyndon Johnson even had that down to a science. "Every hand I shake is worth 150 votes, he would say, because they'll all tell other people what a great guy I was to shake the hand, and then they'll tell even more people." As we get older, we learn that if we want to lose weight, we have to quit drinking alcohol, eat less, and exercise more, not expect a miracle. That if we want to become rich, we have to become a better person, more skilled, more persistent, more motivated. So we're tempted to follow the positive thinkers and metaphysicians because it does seem like a shortcut to success. But we have an uneasy feeling that it may be too good to be true. Next, we watch the cognitive thinkers going off on the road to the left to see if what they're saying makes sense. They say it isn't as simple as the metaphysicians and positive thinkers would have you believe. That changing the way you think will change the way you behave, and that's what makes you successful. How would that relate to shooting baskets? It means that if you believed you could become a good basketball player, you'd want to try shooting some baskets and see if you were any good at it. Then if you found out that you were terrible, you'd be in control of your thoughts enough to persist until you did get good. That makes more sense. Changing the way you think probably would lead to changing the way you behave. However, there's a third branch on the road to success, and I want us to go down it together. It's the way taken by behavior shapers, who say that if you change your behavior even the smallest amount and reward that change, it will lead to improved performance, and that is what changes your thinking. Behavior shapers say that if you want to get good at shooting baskets or anything else, start doing it in a supportive environment and keep on doing it until you become a master at it. If something is worth doing, it's worth doing poorly until you get good at it. Johnny Ace Palmer, a world champion magician, is a close friend of mine. The World Conference of Magicians voted him world champion at their convention in Holland. Not only that, he was also the first close-up magician ever to receive the award. To watch him perform makes me marvel that anybody can be as good at anything as he is with sleight-of-hand magic. He can make a Coke bottle appear out of thin air. He can wave his hand and make anything disappear. When he appears at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, he gets standing ovations from his peers. Once we flew back from Chicago together after filming a television show. We talked for a while, and then I said, "Want to play some cards?" He looked at me in astonishment and said, "I don't normally play cards, Roger." "Why not?" I asked him. "Because it wouldn't be fair." "Oh, come on," I said. "Let's play some poker." "Okay, but I won't bet with you," he told me. I asked the flight attendant for a deck of cards. He unwrapped them and then started shuffling. I thought that he was taking longer than normal to shuffle, but apart from that, I didn't notice anything unusual. Then he dealt a hands and turned his over. He had dealt himself a straight flush. I said, "Okay, that's enough cards. What do you want to do next?" Johnny stopped by the house recently, and I shared with him my feelings that people today are too concerned with what they think and not concerned enough with what they do. "I couldn't agree with you more, Roger," he told me. "Let me show you a trick that illustrates the point you're making." He pulled a penny and a $half out of his pocket and laid them in the palm of his hand. Suddenly the $half disappeared. He tossed the penny up in the air, and in mid-air it seemed to change into a $half. He tossed the $half up, and it changed into a penny. I was sitting only a foot away, and I had no idea how he was doing it. "That's unbelievable, Johnny. How long did it take you to learn how to do that?" "About 4 years," he told me. I was dying to ask him how he did it, and I know he won't tell me, so I never ask. To my surprise, he said, "I'm going to break a rule and show you how I do it. It's the only way I can make my point. What we're doing is back-palming the other coin. Back-palm is an expression that we magicians use to describe holding the coin between the fingers on the back of our hands." He turned his hand over so that the palm was down and showed me how he was gripping the edge of the coin between the back of his fingers. When it appears to disappear, I really moved it to back palm, so that I'm just gripping the edge of it between the back of my fingers. When I appear to be tossing the penny up in the air, I'm really throwing the $half from the back of my hand. As I toss it, I move the penny in my palm to my back palm. "So it's really a very simple trick?" I asked him. "It's simple, but it takes extraordinary skill. There are only 4 other people in the world can do what I've just shown you. It takes incredible manual dexterity, so you need to warm up your fingers to do it the way a concert pianist warms up. The problem is that magicians don't get a chance to warm up. We have to move into an illusion like this and get it right the first time. If I could warm up first, I could have learned to do this in only 1 year. To be able to do it on command, it took me 4 years. So here's how this relates to what you're saying about thinking as opposed to doing. When I was learning to do this, I tried to visualize the penny changing into a $half. For hours I would sit there tossing the coins up, trying to visualize them changing. It didn't help. What I found out was that if I wanted to learn how to do this, I had to be willing to do it badly, and then keep working at it until I could do it poorly. After 6 months, I could do it adequately, but not well enough to do it in public. Only after a year of practice could I do it without effort. To do it on command took me 3 more years of practice. What Johnny Ace Palmer was telling me about magic applies to anything else you want to accomplish in life. Positive thinking is wonderful, but only if it leads to a change in behavior. You do something well, you must do it badly until you can do it poorly, and poorly until you can do it adequately, and then keep honing your skills until you can do it well. As I said before, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing poorly until you get good at it. While cognitive psychologists and behavior shapers differ widely on how to become successful, they both agree on one thing, that for things to change in your life, one way or another your behavior has to change. And you know what? It's a lot easier to change the way you behave than to change the way you think. Would you give me an amen on that? Of course you would. Look at what you're doing right now. You're listening to this program, which tells me that you're an intelligent, disciplined person who's willing to make an investment in your future. So your behavior is you're listening to the program. Your thoughts, however, may be somewhere else. You may be thinking, Self-improvement is hard work. I put in a good day's work, so perhaps I'll relax now and get back to this program later. You're tempted to stop listening to this program and turn on the television. That would be the new behavior. You can pay a therapist thousands of dollars to find out why you have the tendency to start doing something and then quit before you see things through. The therapist will probably do a great job of teaching you why you think the way you do. He or she may even be able to change the way you think. However, you have another choice. The other choice you have is simply to change the way you behave. Don't quit listening to this program. Just keep on listening. Isn't that an incredible shortcut? I'm not even sure that understanding why you do counterproductive things is going to help you anyway. Albert Ellis, the brilliant founder of the Rational Emotive School of Therapy, says this: insight will help you very little. You think that your knowledge of how you got disturbed will make you less neurotic? Drivel, it will make you nuttier. Albert Ellis is my kind of person. By now, you know that I believe that what you do is far more germane to your success than how you think. If you feel that you're capable of achieving more than you've done so far, it's a good bet that your behavior stands between you and where you want to go. In short, you're doing something wrong. The question is, why do things that are clearly not in your best interest? Why do you fail to do the things that make your life easier, richer, and more fun? In this program, I'll answer those questions, and I'll give you the tools you need to start doing the things you need to do to reach your full potential. At the same time, you'll learn how to eliminate self-destructive behavior. Not only your own, you will also be able to influence other people's behavior using the same techniques. This is, above all, a practical session. I think that people look at their performance with an emphasis on the deep psychological forces that they imagine are at work, and an underemphasis on behavior. Success is nothing more than interaction between what you do, where you do it, and how you reinforce that behavior. There's no question that William James was right when he said that you could change your circumstances by changing the way you think. Remember, however, that changing your attitude doesn't get you anywhere unless it leads to a change in behavior. Somewhere down the line, thoughts have to turn into actions. So the real purpose of changing the way you think is that a change in thinking leads to a change in behavior. In this program, I'm going to explore with you a sensational shortcut. How about simply changing your behavior and skip having to change the way you think first? You know what? As I'll prove to you before we're through, changing your behavior is a lot easier than changing the way you think. Next, I want to teach you the AC/DC formula. Everybody has one of 4 driving forces, and I'm going to analyze yours for you so that you can begin to understand why you behave the way you do. Session 2, Knowing Your Driving Life Force. In this session, I'm going to lay the groundwork for everything that follows by teaching you which of the 4 driving life forces dominates your behavior. When you're very young, one of these driving forces rises up inside you and influences everything you do for the rest of your life. When you learn which is your driving life force, you'll know why you behave the way you do. Then, when you learn to attune your energy to your driving life force, you'll be amazed at the quantum leaps in achievement you'll take. Let's start out with a little goal setting. Before you start out on a journey, it's a good idea to find out if you really want to go there. I want you to take a leap in faith and assume that if you apply the techniques in this program, they will give you everything you want. I also want to imagine that whatever you decide to go for, you will never run out of money and your health will stay good. With all of these assurances, I want you to answer the following questions. They will give you a tremendous insight into your driving life force. Would you rather be poor but famous, like Mother Teresa, or rich and unknown, like billionaire Daniel K. Ludwig? Would you rather be Jimmy Fallon, the host of The Tonight Show, who must constantly prove himself, or Jacques Cousteau, who can ride on his reputation? Would you rather own your own company that earned you $1 million a year, or be president of a huge corporation with a salary of $1 million a year? Would you rather be a famous golfer whom everybody loves, or a famous surgeon to whom...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?